What we're going to do today is a little bit different. The last 7 presentations have more been about someone speaking and we just listening. This time we're going to do a little bit different. What we wanted to do is bring on 4 of us, to talk about some challenges that they're facing, some successes they're having, and how they're dealing with what you're all dealing with. We're all in the same situation here. So again, if you're expecting a typical Zoom where you have the whole Brady Bunch scene, everybody's picture on there, it's not going to be one like that. We're expecting over 100 people, so that's a little impractical. You will be seeing the 4 presenters up there as along with myself. The way we're going to be able to do this, we had to mute everybody, and so don't be raising your hand. We won't be able to bring on live for questions, but make sure you use the chat box. If you're not familiar with that, if you're on a laptop, scroll down to the bottom and you'll see chat right there. That chat will go to myself, and the panelists will be able to monitor that real time and be able to pass those questions on to our panelists. If you're using an iPad, up in the right-hand corner, there's the 3 dots. You click on that and your chat will be there. So that's the best way to communicate with us today, and we'll do our best to get those questions to our guests. Understand that there's usually when we do this, there's a couple hundred questions. We can't get to all of them, but we'll do our best to make sure we get them on there. Again, this is being recorded, so that question always comes up first. Yes, it's being recorded. You'll be able to come back and listen to it later or share this with your friends. James created our own YouTube channel. It's nsdcartv.com. Just go there. You'll be able to watch this recording along with the 7 previous ones. Before we get going, I kind of wanted to, I was thinking about what the theme for today is. And I saw something on social media a couple weeks ago that was really, I thought, profound, very simple, but profound. And I think it's the theme for today. And what it said is that we're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. So think about that. We're all in the same storm, but we are not all in the same boat. And what we have today for you is 4 different business types, 4 different groups, and you may not fit into one of these. And so again, we're here to give you some suggestions, some advice, talk about things, and really share. One of the disadvantages of being quarantined at home is that we just don't have interaction a lot. Everything's through a computer screen. That makes it really tough. So we're trying to humanize this a little bit more today and make sure that we're all sharing ideas. So we have 4 different boats. We have Rick Hagan from Pacific Sotheby's, and probably the largest one, and a Realogy franchise, which is the largest real estate group in the world. Multi-office, multi-county office. We have Nancy Lane from Windermere, again, large office, multi-county. Bill Richards, who used to be a CB franchise, then had his own office, and now he's part of an international group that's, I think, is a little bit more online brokerage today than traditional. And Jan Ryan from Remax Direct in Ramona, who's a one-office owner broker, and all of them have some great insight, and all of them obviously are doing things a little bit different. So we appreciate them taking their time to share with us today. Before I bring them on, though, I do want to make sure that we all understand one thing. This is their boats. They're going to talk about how they're captaining their boats today. And while you may get some great ideas from that, they're not trying to tell you how to do your business. Okay, it's important that if you have NAR or CAR or your franchise or your broker or the county or whoever advising you to do it differently, please don't contradict that. These guys are just here to share the way that they're doing it. I know we're being inundated, and there's lots and lots of information out there that we're getting. So kind of the framework, though, that we can start from, I'm going to share my screen here for a second, is a lot of us are basing what we're doing on this. You know, CAR came out with their BPPP, the Best Practices Guidelines Prevention Plan for Showing Property. A lot of that is going to be based on this Cal OSHA guidelines, and make sure you see down here, this is May 12th. I'll put this link in the chat so you all have reference to it if you haven't seen it, but this goes into a lot of detail about what the state and OSHA are recommending for showing properties, for opening your offices, things like that. So again, this is kind of the framework, and these guys will do their best to answer your questions, but remember, this is the way they're doing it, and they're not trying to give you legal advice or anything else like that. So just want to make, and I'll probably say that a couple times throughout the presentation as questions come up. So just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay, so without further ado, let's start. I'm gonna, on my screen, I'm gonna start with Bill since he's up there. I'm gonna have Bill unmute himself and tell us a little about his company, size, number of agents, things like that. Before we get into questions, I want to have them each introduce themselves. So Bill.
Sure. Thank you. And not much has changed for me since the beginning of this because I've been in the office every day. So it's like I start answering calls at 7 in the morning. They seem to go to 10 at night. Never been busier than my life. The company, we have over 60 locations in our company and 14 in California. And it's 164 markets. It's busy. It's crazy. It's much like the rest of them. We have brick and mortars. We're really not, any of us are different. I think personally, as far as what we do as brokerages. So I'm not exactly sure where you'd like to go with it. But I'm Chris, this is your show. I'm here. I can only tell you that the one thing that we've been forced to do right now is tech. Hide this stuff. How many would have ever thought that we would be Zooming all the time? I mean, it just 5 to 20 hours a week worth of Zoom calls is a lot of hours.
It is. And we'll have some specific questions, but I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Rick, you're up.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, our company is operating in 3 counties, Orange County, the Coachella Valley, Palm Desert, and also in San Diego. We have somewhere around 1,100 agents, give or take, and about 32 locations that we're operating in. So I think that we're working hard to try and stay abreast of all of the changes. And I think Bill said that really well. This is your show, Chris. We the ultimate show of respect and trust of you is we all said we do this, and we don't know what you're going to ask us.
Uh-oh, no pressure there. All right, thanks, Rick. Okay, Nancy.
Hi. Well, I was expecting for you to have a captain's hat on, Chris, because you're the captain of this boat. I am with Windermere, which is more of a big boutique, maybe is a good way to put it. We are operating in San Diego, the desert area, also Coachella, Palm Desert, Palm Springs, and Riverside. We're opening an office in Temecula as well. So we're the small but big office. We are really kind of ramping up our virtual presence, as it were. When this whole thing started, we had daily updates, and everything seemed to be updating daily. It was a little bit crazy. And I think everybody was sort of looking for their sea legs to keep going on with the boat analogy. And so that was really important for us to be able to kind of reach out to our agents, our constituency and all that, and find a way to make this work so that everybody still felt like they had that connection and that they still were able to operate in this, this new world that we live in now. And the North County Association was hugely helpful. Their classes and stuff that they offered, as well as CAR. So all of us sort of looking out at this new generation of requirements has been kind of an interesting learning curve. And it's been an interesting but a little bit rocky sea out there for a little bit, but I think we're finding our way.
Great. And just to make sure you guys listening all understand, I may be captaining the ship right now, but a good captain takes input from everybody. So if you have questions, make sure you start getting in the chat so we have we get the answers to questions that you have, because that's what's important today. So Jan, how about you?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jan Ryan, broker owner, Remax Direct, with my husband, Jeff Gann. I'm also an active agent, and this is a small office in Ramona with 13 agents. So I think we have a little different scenario than some of the others. So hopefully we can work together, get some solutions.
Great, thanks. Okay, let's go back in order. And the first question, I know a lot of people are asking themselves, and it's fortunately we're starting to see things open up again. We're starting to see people out. The market's picking up a little, and one of the big questions people are having is opening their offices. So Bill, can you kind of give us a little update on, are you open? How are you opening? What's the process?
Yeah, as independent contractors, the agents are allowed to enter anytime they want, even since the beginning of this, because it's their designated place of business. However, the building's owned by someone else, and so the building has to allow it, because then they have a cross use with people coming in from outside the public. So we have done both. We have made the PPE available to the agents that bring on the public, and then we've also have to come underneath the building standards. So when a person enters, they see everything that you'll see at all the restaurants and everything else. But when they enter our suite and then enter our conference rooms, then they are also given the PPE that's available to them, that makes us, I would say, designated from the county as safe, if that's a proper word.
Okay, great. Rick, how about you guys?
I want to make sure I remember to unmute. We're going slowly and cautiously with opening offices. I think a common thread that we've all heard from CAR, Gov Hutchinson, and the rest of the legal team is that we're all being watched very closely. We're targets for legal action. And we don't want to make a misstep that costs our associates or our company our livelihoods. So we're being very, very careful, and we're taking the first and primary approach has been to look out for the safety of the public and the safety of our staff. Everybody's reaction to this pandemic is different. We have some agents that are 100% against any business activity whatsoever, and we have other agents on the other end of the spectrum that say, I refuse to wear a mask, I'm not going to participate, I'm an independent contractor, and you can't make me. Some version of that. And I respect every single opinion, but I have to follow the rules that have been placed on me by the government. That's the position we're put in. So with our offices, and that being said, our offices are designed right now for staff safety. We're just starting to bring them back online this week. So only a few of our offices have opened. Some of the offices we went through with our management team and identified they're not able to operate. They're small enough, they're a satellite office perhaps, and they're just simply not large enough to allow more than one person in the office and maintain social distancing. So that person has to be our staff person. That if an agent does take the position that they will not cooperate with our posted rules of entry, which just like our listings, now each community or each local ordinance tells us what we have to do inside each area. If an agent says, I refuse to participate, our answer has to be that you stay home. And that's difficult because people want to be connected, right? We're using Zoom more than ever before. I was a very slow adopter. I got on the Zoom calls. I tried to provide content without turning my camera on. And you see, even today, I can't seem to find a way to take my tie off. So, I'm uncomfortable in this venue, but Bill's right. Who would imagine we were all doing this now? So, Chris, you said something on a call a few days ago about the weather in a certain part of the country. I forget which part of the country you're talking about, but the idea being that if you don't like the rules that we're operating under right now, wait 2 hours and the rules are going to change. And stay calm, carry on, deal with what we have today, and remember it could all be taken away if we don't follow the rules.
That's a great point. I know that there were people that were saying, heck with this, I'm going to go out and hold open houses again. And that the government was watching. There were a lot of people watching and saying, hey, if you guys can't play nice in the sandbox, we're going to just take you back and shut you down completely. And that's just not appropriate. And we have to understand that this is a different time. And while we are independent contractors, we still have responsibility to the public. We have a responsibility to our fellow agents and our clients that we have to follow some rules.
Yeah, and mechanically, I think everybody is making sure to separate desks, separate chairs. In our conference rooms, we're removing chairs and placing the chairs at least 6 feet apart. And in the few conference rooms that can't accommodate that spacing, we've removed the chairs entirely. So anything that's a common use item like a coffee pot has been disabled, and there's a sign on it. We're not letting people use the refrigerators. An agent can come in to do some work and then leave the building, but they can't remain in the building for an entire day's shift. That's not the intention. Our offices are not open for that purpose right now.
Good. Nancy?
It's kind of funny how there are so many different opinions of this. And our approach has been, we understand, and everybody is absolutely entitled to their version of their opinion. But we, like Rick, are very specific about the rules that have been imposed on us by OSHA, by CAR, and those are the things that guide us. Similarly, with the contract, and that's the way I have approached it. You may or may not agree with something that's in a contract, but that's a contractual obligation. So for us, this is a business obligation. So we have put in place, we actually wrote our reopening rules and guidelines, and we have everybody in our company sign off on that, and they understand. And we went through a training. We had about a 3-hour training on a couple of different Zoom calls with different sections of our company, and made sure everybody has that, and then everybody signed that they did understand that. Similarly, we have our offices blocked out with the 6-foot guidelines, and we have taken chairs out as well. And it's really because, we're all grown-ups. Whether or not you agree with mask wearing or not mask wearing, our industry is being looked at under a microscope. We are not exactly beloved out there. And there's a lot of people who are calling on restaurants and other companies that are out there that are opened incorrectly. And there have been several pretty hefty fines out there. And that's not something any of us want to do. So basically, we've approached this as, here's how you stay out of trouble. And these are the guidelines that you must follow in order to do so. In your own time, you're right, you're an independent contractor, do what you want. But if you're playing in our space, you play by the rules that are set out by the industry. And so it actually kind of reminds me, I've been in this industry a long time. And I was there when we went from books to computers. And I used to work for a computer training company. I used to train and wrote code and train people on airplanes. And I remember trying to train the agents in the office 100 million years ago on the computer. And a lot of people were afraid of the computer. So I actually set up a lot of solitaire games. Yes, it was me that started that. And got them comfortable with the computer so that they could utilize it. And we got through that, and we lived through that, and nobody died. And then after the 2008 crash, and everybody thought the world was changed forever and we'd never sell another house, and we got through that. So I just kind of look at this as another hurdle that we have to go through, and we find ways to make it work. We've actually, we have a certification for our agents now that have gone through additional training through the CDC and Cal OSHA to be certified, so that they can, they are specialists now in how to cleanse and make sure that the property is shown properly, et cetera. So we're working through these issues and making sure that our agents and our clients are both safe, and that they have tools to enable them to work and move forward in this new normal. And I hate that term, but it is what we have.
Hey, I promised I wasn't going to use the new normal at all today, so we're going to go back and delete that part. We're going to edit that little section out.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Is it the new normal yesterday or tomorrow?
Yeah, the new today
2 hours.
normal for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Nancy, that's a great point to give an agent's information about that certification. I think one of the big questions that I started hearing early from agents that, agents are used to staying busy. And when you tell them they have to stay home, they start asking, well, what can I do? So finding things like that are fantastic. Giving the agents a list of things to do every day. Go back to the basics. Do your 5 touches. Do your 5 envelopes. Do every one of those basics that can be shortcut from time to time, and just helping everybody understand that there's still work to be done, even if you can't leave your house.
Well, we actually ramped up our training. We have marketing classes. We have a thing called Ninja, which is a sort of our version of Buffini type thing. We have those trainings. Those are ramped up. We have weekly classes and all kinds of different things. So really, we've almost overloaded, at least according to our agents. But if they have the choice to stay as busy as they want to be, and to be, moving forward. And I really think that that's kind of the key here, is to be able to continue to move forward. and find your way. It may not be the same path, but we still all, I mean, it's in our nature to move forward.
You know, it's a great point, and by nature, agents, you know, are entrepreneurs. That's why they do what they do, and they don't really like to be told what to do. They want to create their own path, and that's great. Other than, like you say, there's certain things that we do have to follow. So giving them as much to do. I know that when it first started, I said, you know what, guys, if you do nothing else the first couple of days, then sit down and handwrite 3 notes a day, right? Start with that. And then one of the things that I learned at Ninja, which I think is wonderful, is I do the dialing, right? Where you take your cell phone, you go to your contacts list, you scroll through, and wherever it stops, that's who you call. And it's really easy not to say, well, I'll call them, it's different, or I don't want to talk to them, I haven't talked to them in a long time, right? No, pick up the phone and call. And it's not for business, it's just relationships. Hey, how's it going? How's life and stuff? And it's amazing what that leads into, right? It's that human connection when they don't have that because they're quarantined at home. So Jan, I want to make sure I get to you, and how you guys doing on opening?
Well, you know, we're gonna stay close for a while. I found that we had lunch every day in the lunchroom before this happened. We all got together. So we started Zoom meetings at lunch, got together every day, and now it's once a week. But we brainstormed together, and really it's an opportunity to catch up on technology. There's so much technology out there that's available. So we brainstorm together, help each other out, and Remax and the other, you know, there's so much out there. So we're gonna stay close right now. I found it pretty easy to connect with a smaller office, and we're doing what Bill did. I think, and everyone else, the agents are allowed to come in, use the copier, do what they need to do. We have the signs posted, CDC on the doors. We do have a couple of other businesses that are co-leasing. So the main lobby's open for drop-offs, mail and stuff, but I'm not missing that office actually being open so much. I mean, so much business is on cell phones, and I'm looking forward to it, but right now I feel the liability, the risk, and all the restrictions, I'm uncomfortable with it.
You know, it's interesting because you can say that Zoom is impersonal. One of the things that I found is even for training purposes, I can do one-on-one training with agents where I Zoom with them, I have them share their screen, and so I can see what they're doing, and they say, how do I do this? And rather than me do it for them, I can watch their process, right? And then I can say, no, go up here and click this button and do this and type this in. And they actually learn better, I think, because they're not just listening, they're actually doing the process themselves. And so there's really, I think there's a lot of good things. I'll let you guys talk about that.
Chris, you know, I think that's a good point, because I think all of us have been forced to really connect with all of our agents, you know, and it's only made us better brokers and brokerages overall, because we have a lot more connection now than we ever had.
So that leads into my next question. And we're gonna, once we do a couple questions here, I'm gonna open it up and we'll kind of free for all. But
Sure.
2 things I want to get to today with each of you, and I'll have you just be prepared for these, is obviously there's challenges, and we don't want to just talk about those, but if you can share with us some of the significant challenges you faced, and then the next follow-up question after that will be some successes. You know, what are you finding that you're making lemonade out of lemons, right? I mean, it started out as, oh my gosh, the world's going to end when we lose the book, and now we have online, right? So start with the challenges. Let's mix it up. Rick, how about you? Some of the major challenges you guys have faced.
I think, frankly, one of the biggest challenges we had was communicating with the agents. We do that in person. We know that as a big company, we always want to make sure that we have office meetings, we get people together and talk, and we use that in a big way to communicate with our agents. So we have a inter-office email system. We have, you know, hot messaging, instant messaging with agents, but I think a lot of people took that for granted and weren't using it very well. So we had to get agents re-engaged electronically in in ways that we didn't have them before. Now, of course, Zoom showed up, but I think just having all the agents communicate with us and understand that we are a lifeline for them right now, that they need to talk to us more often than they ever have before, if for no other reason, because the rules keep changing. And they also have to understand, and I think they needed to realize that we are human and we're working hard. Bill mentioned his hours. I think we can all put our hours up there, and people would be amazed what time of day we're getting phone calls. And you know, my wife would love to see me more, but even though I'm at home more often than at the office, I'm in my office and I'm taking phone calls and answering emails just like everybody else is. It's very, very hard to stay that in touch. So Zoom has worked well. I'm kind of interested. I think an awful lot of people would be surprised to learn that there's been a product like Zoom available to them in their zip forms. If Kevin Burke was here, he'd be telling us the name of it, and I never used it before either. Who knows the name of that product? Is it Assist or Zip Consult? That's what it is. It's called Zip Consult, right, Nancy? So yeah, that we've had a product like Zoom where we could actually
muted.
Yeah, we could be showing our clients our documents as we're filling them out in zip forms and explaining the contracts to clients on a call similar to Zoom. So we've all had to learn how to do that. I think that's been a big challenge for us. The other challenge is, you know, I think we all have agents that just don't communicate, and they say, I'm an independent contractor, I'm going to do my business my way, and to get in touch with them and really get them to re-engage with the company. Those are probably our biggest challenges. For me personally, just staying up to date with the changes. I really am the kind of guy that wants to speak from a position of authority. I want to make sure I have a very solid foundation on what I'm sharing with my agents, because I know they're going to book it. You know, when I tell them something, they take it as the gospel and they move forward. And so when I hold a Zoom class like this and I tell all the agents, you know, something that changed recently was we received new guidance from CAR that we don't have to have the seller's acknowledgement on the PED form before the buyer can enter a property for showing. That was something that was up in the air before, and we were advising our agents to make sure you had the seller's acknowledgement before access was granted. Well, now that seems to have been changed. So there's an example that I had to roll with the punches, and I had to get back online with my agents almost within 2 hours of ending the class to let them know that that was new guidance and that we could adjust that guidance. So those are two big challenges, I think, for us.
Well, and I know that, well, I'll let Nancy go. Go ahead, Nancy.
Really similar, actually, to Rick, except that the number of challenges that change daily. I love all of this technology and stuff, and for me, Zoom was a natural. We started doing that, like I said, almost immediately. We had daily, multiple Zoom calls, and our agents seem to really want that. We've toned it back now. I actually do 2 calls a week for risk management to go over all the changes, which for a couple of weeks there did not seem to be enough. I literally gave a talk on Tuesday. Wednesday, the new forms came out. Thursday was a completely different change from everything I had said on Tuesday. Things that have changed, not just the PED form, but the BPPP, which is very, by the way, Mr. Forms guy, very confusing. And it is, but I had to call and get clarification on that. The other thing that changed was the children being allowed in properties. Before it was only 2 people. They had to be able to purchase the house, and then they said, okay, kids can come in, their parents have to sign for them. So there's just all these weird, funny little quirky changes that have happened, but it upsets people to not know what the rules are. And so we have to be as versed as is possible in those rules. And I'm kind of a rules person in general anyway. That's why I've been on professional standards for 20 years. So for me to try and keep up with all of this, and they are changing, I mean, almost minute to minute. CAR gave the talk on, I think it was Wednesday, when the forms came out about how to utilize the forms. And on Thursday, when they were put in zip form, they were different. And so, I mean, for me, that kind of just makes me crazy. Like Rick, I'm calling people back going, no, that's changed. This is different now. So I like to keep up on all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of interesting for us. we're a fairly large company. We're not as big as Rick, but the getting people in person to office meetings has, over the past couple of years, definitely scrolled way back. We've had less and less attendance. People are kind of doing their own thing and going out and not being as connected personally. Zoom meetings have really brought us back to a much larger, group. People are coming together more. We have more attendance. And I think it's kind of funny in a way, even though it's less personal, it's also more personal in funny ways. We'll do things like, we have happy hours on Fridays, and it's a company-wide happy hour on Zoom. So everybody gets together, we play silly games. We have, tell me the weirdest place you've ever gone on vacation. I mean, just strange stuff like that, but it's kind of funny, and people are finding out things about people in the company that they've known for years that they didn't know before. So in a strange way, it's brought us together separately.
Yeah, and for those of you who are wondering about the forms, I'm one of those guys on standard forms, and I will tell you that we have a policy.
It's your fault.
Yeah, I know. Blame it on me. We have a policy in the forms that once we release a new form, we don't make a change to it for 2 years. That's been our stated policy for years.
Now it's 2 minutes.
And we don't normally, sometimes it takes us months to roll out a new form because there's so much haggling over individual words. We were meeting constantly, and we changed the first CVA 4 times in 2 weeks. I mean, this is just unheard of stuff. So it's just crazy. And if you feel overwhelmed, we get it. We are as well. Sometimes we show up at one of our meetings and the attorneys have 3 new forms we never even heard of as a committee that are rolling out that day. So it's crazy, and we understand that. And just make sure that you're talking to your brokers, talking to CAR, going on their website. The association has all kinds of updates. Just make sure you're staying on top of it because it is changing a lot. So, Jan.
Let me jump in real quick, if you don't mind. Can I just suggest that I don't sit on that committee. I don't sit on a committee at CAR this in the last few years. Agents, if you really want to know what you can do to help, I'll tell you what, reach out to people like Chris, reach out to the people that are at CIR working for you and thank them. They're not the people that are making these rules. These are the people that are trying to dissect the rules and find some type of a reasonable standard that we can all follow. We cannot overstate the amount of hours and time they're putting in on our behalf. And anybody you know, anybody that your friends know, please reach out and thank them. Not just Chris, but Chris certainly deserves the thanks as well. But anybody that's taking that leadership role right now deserves our heartfelt gratitude.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. And it is true when it comes to the forms. We're not looking to bury you with new forms or the changes. Almost every paragraph, every word in those forms are as a result of new laws or a lawsuit or something like that. And we're just trying to protect you guys and the industry. So it's reactionary more than anything. Sometimes we're trying to be proactive and get out ahead of it, but a lot of times it's reactionary. So thank you. Jan, challenges, biggest challenges.
Oh yeah, the challenges are the same. Just keeping up with the regulations to be sure to be compliant. But Chris, thank you for what you do with the forms. And then the chit chat, the one you had with the car was excellent. I learned a lot from that. Thank you. And just to be able to go into the car forms and know if you read those and understand and are using those, that is a huge help in that direction. A couple other different challenges that we've had in our office is we had an awards night for all the agents cancel because it was right after the quarantine. So we've got to figure another way to show the agents our appreciation and get the word out. So, and then advertising, it's become a little bit different. What do you advertise where? Change it up a little. So those are a couple of the other challenges. But also the close communication with the agents has been awesome. We've learned a lot. We are getting a lot more connected. They've given me some really good insightful input that I probably wouldn't have had before, but one-on-one conversations, staying in close touch has, again, really brought us closer and some great new ideas we're going to implement.
Great. Okay. So Bill, I'm going to get to you and I'm going to have you do your challenge and success. We'll go back down the line. We do have a couple questions I want to get to, and I know a lot of us kind of a hard deadline at 11 o'clock to jump into the meeting. So we want to keep to that hour. So we've got about 20 minutes. So Bill, challenge and success.
So some of the challenges are, it's funny because we're very, we like the Zooms, but we also want to have people. The first time, I think it was 3 weeks after we hadn't seen our grandkids. We got 14 grandkids that are 10 and under. And we went to our daughter's house. Our daughter ran out of the house, came to us and just started crying because she hadn't seen us in 3 weeks. And so I think people also want to get together physically sometime. So when we have our meetings, I change my background in case I feel like this, or I change my background in case I feel like drinking, or to my corporate one. I do that just simply to keep the humor, keep the stuff going. But some of the real challenges that we've had have been, I've had to do mediation online. I never did that before. Legal issues online with agents to make sure that we're going through the things with the car attorneys. Sometimes even with Zoom, which has been a different change because we're stretched out over throughout the whole state of California. It's not necessarily easy because what's going on here is not necessarily the same as what's going on downtown in San Francisco or in LA. So the agents that we're working with have a lot of different needs. The first thing that I noticed was they were really worried about the PPP and all the different, can they get unemployment, and are they independent contractors? Do they put our name down? No, don't put our name down because they don't work for us. You're an independent contractor. That'll force you out of the system. The successes have been working with them, getting to understand the PPP, working with them and getting them to understand how they can get unemployment if they need so, and it's not a bad thing for them. It's really to help relieve them during this very stressful time. And then the others is the simple thing would be to conquer their fear of either working with the clients, going to the homes, COVID, all those things. I think that you become a psychiatrist, a sociologist, a virologist. There's just so many different hats that you put on that we've had to learn how to do in the last few weeks. So I would just say that it's, in a lot of ways, it's been better, much better. And in other ways, the challenge is, I think the success is that we're all growing. We're all growing individually.
Yep, that's great. Okay, Rick, some successes.
Successes. I think we are more connected to more of our agents than we have been in a long time. That's a success no matter what. I think in pre-COVID, right? Pre-COVID, I won't use those terms we're talking about, but and if an agent didn't see value in something we were trying to offer, they just disregarded, right? They would move on and do something else. Now we're able to get them to engage with us and tell us what they don't like about something maybe that we're offering. I'm sure every one of us have had that experience when an agent comes to you and say, I think I'm thinking about moving companies because I see that somebody else has a shinier widget, or the grass is greener on the other side. And when they tell you what the widget is, in my experience, a lot of times we have a widget that's just similar, maybe better. Everybody has a better widget if they spend time on it. So to stop and be able to say to that agent, wait, let me show you what we're providing. Let's do this class. Let's talk about it. And if there's some problem with what we're providing, tell us what it is, we can fix it. So we're engaged with our agents at that level. So it's not just technology people, and it's not just management that are creating programs, creating products, or implementing them. So that's been a huge success for us. We have made it clear to every agent that every single thing we're offering is not protected. We will scrap any program that's not working if we can't make it work. But that first they have to demonstrate to us that they understand what we're trying to do with the program. So it's a two-way street. And I don't think we had that dialogue with very many of our agents before. We would have agents that just dismissed what we were doing and they weren't willing to put the time in to learn it. Or we had agents that were picking things apart, and if it didn't exactly fit their model, they may not want to adopt it. But the dialogue has been very, very healthy. So that's our biggest success.
It's interesting. It reminds me of my dad used to be an avid golfer, and about once every month or so, I'd talk to him and he'd say, hey, I got this new driver. It's the greatest driver, the latest, and it's going to fix my draw or my hook or whatever. And at some point I finally said, maybe it's not the club, maybe it's you, right? And I think that's something that we're kind of missing, is that agents need to understand that there's lots of stuff that you guys are providing. You have great tools and resources, but they have a responsibility to participate, to ask, to learn. And now's the time to do it. They can't just rely on it rolling out and saying, you know, here it is. They have to invest the time and energy to make it work, because there's lots of good stuff out there. And don't be distracted by the shiniest new penny. It's so easy to jump from that, or the new driver, the new whatever. You know what? There's some basic fundamentals that we have in our business that work if you just work at it consistently. So that's a great point, Rick. Thank you. Nancy.
One of my favorite, not favorite, but a meme that I've seen recently that just made me laugh out loud was, sometimes the greener grass is from a septic tank issue.
Yeah, it grows over the septic tank. Yep.
Exactly. Could be a different issue than you thought.
Yeah.
We actually had our awards ceremony right in the middle, or right after it was supposed to be right after the COVID shutdown. So we actually did it on Zoom. We had the awards and everything dropped off at our agents' houses. Then we, if they were around, and we filmed, and then we had their awards acceptance on Zoom. It was actually, it was not the most favorite probably award ceremony, but it worked, and everybody was kind of happy about the you know, sort of the surprise of it. And so that was kind of fun to do. But definitely that was a challenge. And I agree, similar challenges with regard to kind of keeping everybody, you know, calm and busy. And I think our successes are similar, actually. And I think this is kind of because this is a universal approach to this business, and that is that personal contact. And whether you're a big company or a small company, your agents want to have that personal contact, even though a lot of them will say that they don't, that they're, you know, I'm independent, I never need anything, I never talk to anybody. They really do. And so it's nice to be able to have that connection again, even if it is, you know, separate. I mean, we're not physically in the same room, but in some ways it's actually created a closer connection when you can have sort of those one-on-ones that we've all been talking about, either with training, in our office meetings, or in our risk management meetings when we have that Q&A. So everybody can have, and we have what we call broker roundtables, where we have, I meet with a group of agents and they talk about the issues that they've been having. And it's really kind of exploded that, sorry. And so we have a larger group, we have a larger input. So more people are giving their opinions, and I just think it's been a huge success in that sense. And also to Bill's point, being able to see people finally, where we have we're sort of kind of opening, where we have the soft opening of our offices. It was just so nice. People they have grins on their faces all the time because they haven't seen people in so long. You know, even though this may not have been their favorite person in the office, they're suddenly, oh my God, it's so amazing to see you. And so I love that part of it. Everybody's best friends again. So it's, you know, kind of like the first day of school. I think a lot of us are super excited to be back, but also aware that, you know, my son's a firefighter, paramedic in Orange County. I actually got his review, and he's been exposed to over 17 verified COVID patients. He's done over 386 hours of overtime in the last 2 months. It's crazy out there. I don't have any illusions about how done this issue is, but it is nice to see some movement and some ability to open back up again.
Great, thanks, Nancy. Jan, successes.
Oh, successes. I actually tried to roll that into my last speech, but the successes again have been just connecting with the agents, all the new ideas that have come up. We've gone through the websites. I didn't have time to do that before. Getting the agents back into the technology, which a lot of them were, but there's so many tools available to all of us. So I think we've upgraded all of those. And again, I feel we're a lot closer to the agents. Again, we have a small office, so we do have a lot of one-on-one, but I've been making personal phone calls and checking in more often, along with weekly Zoom meetings have been great. And again, everybody loves to reconnect. So maybe we'll think of a soft opening so they can see each other.
Great. Okay, I do have one question, and I'm not sure if any of you guys want to touch this one. It kind of goes against what we were talking about earlier. And I did post in the chat the link to the guidance from the state and from OSHA. The question is, curious to hear, and again, if you guys don't want to do this, I understand. Are you having listing agents go to every property to disinfect before and after every showing? What product supplies are they having agents put on the property? Position on requiring booties, especially with older clients who are not that stable on their feet.
I can answer that one real easy. The booties, forget it. They got rid of that. The products and supplies, there's so many great ones, Waxy and the rest, that you can go out and get. And there's a couple others I think they just put up. And then the first one on the listing agents to every property disinfect, I was like flabbergasted last Friday when I heard that, yes, we're supposed to be there. I just sold one. I had 7 showings on one day and 7 showings the next day. Thank God this new information came out after that, because there's no way I would have to live at that house for 2 days. And I'm hoping today's Zoom 11 o'clock meeting with the brokers will tell us different. But I can't tell you what to do other than tell you that that's exactly what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, again, I'm going to
afterwards. Bill, I think
refer you to that chat, the chat, because that's the guidelines, and that's really what you need to be doing, or asking your broker or for what they're recommending.
Yeah.
Let me just add, we had a story shared with us from CAR last week on the call, where somebody was requiring booties and somebody slipped and fell, broke, I think, a hip. So there's $1 million lawsuit's been filed against the brokerage and the agent. So booties are a really big issue. Go figure. We've been using booties for how many years, and now all of a sudden it's an issue. But be very, very careful about that, because they're not part of the mandatory items that the CDPH has required. Same with gloves, but our listing agents have to go to every property. That is the rule right now. So it says the listing agent and broker bears the ultimate responsibility of making sure that these steps are followed. So interpret that, meet with your broker to talk about how to interpret that, because there are some creative interpretations. And one of the sections says the licensee is responsible for disinfecting the accessibility fixtures, I think is the term they use. And then the example is railings or banisters. So that doesn't say the listing agent, it says the licensee is responsible. So could that be the showing agent, the buyer's agent? It could be, but that's where I think that I'm not comfortable telling you or advising agents that don't work for my brokerage how to interpret those rules. But I think we all agree that right now these are the rules, we have to follow them. So
yeah, they told us to thoroughly clean. Well, what does that mean? And now it's at least a better definition.
Yeah, and I think some of us were on a call yesterday with an attorney who was a little cavalier, in my opinion, about that advice. They said, you're never going to be able to prove what's cleaned and what hasn't been cleaned. So, we'll find out when the lawsuits hit whether you did it right or not. Yeah, thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. Yeah. The message Nancy was mentioning was that we don't want to be in that position. None of us want to be the test case for these laws. So, yeah, could you interpret them differently? You can, but there's risk in everything that we do. And you guys have put us in a position to be your resource for limiting your risk. So we're trying to give you the safest options, and then you have to talk with your brokers about any deviations from those standards that have been provided. Again, not by CAR, but from the California Department of Public Health, OSHA. They're the ones that set these rules, and CAR's most recent BPPP is designed to only follow those rules.
And if you don't follow those rules, you do so at your own risk. I mean, that's right. And so let me just share. It's funny because it seems like a lifetime ago, but in our February meetings for standard forms, we had approved a form to come out in June next month that was a disclosure about showing property. Clients are responsible to make sure their kids are safe when they're showing property. And one of the issues was booties. That if you're recommending as a seller or an agent that the buyers wear booties, be careful because they are slippery and you can hurt yourself. And so that's long before COVID.
A couple of states it's illegal. You're not even allowed to have them for showings in a few of the states in the country. So I can't imagine why we're not going in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up one thing because you guys both mentioned it. We had our company, and I don't know, to any of you, does it seem like 3 months ago is 1,000 years? in the March, it was March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We were all up in Spokane, then over to Coeur d'Alene for a big whoopie-doo about 400 agents. It was the week after, like everything dropped out. All of a sudden, we're like, what happened to our industry? So I really do. I want to say this to you. I do appreciate everything, Chris, that you're doing and keeping this boat going in the right direction. And we're just appreciative of your leadership.
Well, it's interesting when they announced the lockdown. I remember I probably had about 5 minutes where I thought, there's lots of projects around the house I'm going to get to take care of, and all these things I'm going to get to do that I haven't had time to do.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that lasted about 5 minutes, and I jokingly say, semi-jokingly, that I can't wait for things to get back to normal because I'll be less busy, right? It's just been crazy. So we've got
I saw
about.
my wife walk in here while we were doing that. She's just used to me doing Zooms, so she has no idea which this one was. And somebody was trying to contact me, so.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. If you guys, because we want to make sure that the agents are getting, there's been some great information now, but if you can have just some advice to the agents and brokers out there about how to keep positive, how to keep moving forward, right? I mean, we can't control what happens to us. We can only control what we do with it. Just some advice you could give to everybody out there as a parting shot. Rick?
Well, oh boy, there's an interesting one. I'll tell you what, I think this is a moment to look inward and find out what your inner motivation is for being in this business. What are your strengths and what's your why? Once you understand what your why is, then you can stop and look at your clients, consider your clients with them. What's in it for me, right? What is the client looking for in your relationship? And if those two things align, that's going to reinforce your relationship so you can make those connections. I think that's where all of our motivation comes from, is for being true to our why. And then reach out and talk to the clients. I heard this probably 4 years ago at an Inman conference, take the online offline. And especially now that we're all online more than we've ever been before. Chris, your idea of Roto Dialing, just random dialing clients on your database, that's a great idea. Just if you see it's somebody's birthday, call them. Hey, happy birthday, right? It's too easy to push a button on Facebook now and say, oh, I wished you happy birthday. Didn't you notice? They're not going to notice because 150 other people wish them happy birthday on Facebook. So I think that's an easy way to make new connections with your clients in your sphere of influence. But it all stems from your why. And if you reconnect with that, it's going to empower you.
I think that's great. And for those of you who haven't seen it, go to TED Talks, look at Simon Sinek, right? He talks about his why. And once you understand the why, the what and the how are easy, but you got to get to the why first, why we do things and why our clients do things. It's a great deal. So YouTube, Simon Sinek.
My last thought on this is that one of the other things that I was thrilled to see is, since I'm a little reluctant to get on social media with Zooms, I'm fortunate that we have staff and managers that love this format. Some of them have voluntarily created book clubs, social gatherings. Of course, we're doing the virtual open happy hours as well. But one of our book clubs reread the book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
If you haven't read that book, you should. And if you have read the book, remember it. Because I think that's the most appropriate book out there right now. The author is Spencer Johnson. If you want to write that down, I can put it in the post, but it's Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. There was an updated book version that came out as well, but I think the original is still the best.
It's funny, I just read that book yesterday. I mean, here it is. Well, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first page of it. But you're right. Read it.
Okay.
It's short, 45, 50 pages, but it's great about change.
Okay. While you're up, Bill, last thought real quick on moving forward.
We're a people person. We still need to connect, every one of us, whether or not it's like this, which has been really kind of cool. But yeah, if an agent calls, keep your phone open more often than not. This is a 7-day-a-week job now, especially for brokers. Because people are going through a lot of emotional turmoil. We haven't had anyone in our whole company pass away or have any problems with COVID, thank God. But we have had a lot of people been hit financially. So be there for them.
Understand. Nancy, I'm gonna leave you for last. Jan, final thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are, like the great thing to me is when this first happened, I thought the market was gonna fall apart. But look, we still have an amazing, strong market. There's a ton of buyers out there. So if we can get through this, we have an amazing market. The other thing is, I think what's so important is to really, it's a great time to reevaluate. A lot less driving time. I realized how much time I was driving back and forth and how useful that time can be. I've reevaluated a lot of things I've spent time on that I think my life is going to be much better going forward. I've gotten out of maybe a lot of things I thought I had to do. I realized I don't, and really focus on what's effective so you can live a better life from here on out.
Awesome. Great stuff. Nancy, wrap us up.
Well, my background is kind of unusual in that when I was younger, both my parents passed away by the time I was 10. Really horrible childhood. I've been through a lot of things. And I look at this as just another hurdle. And I always believe in turning a problem into a positive. It's either growth or it's movement or it's direction. Most of us got into this industry because we genuinely, of course it's a business that we make money at, but we chose this one because we genuinely like working with people and helping people and achieving that. I always think of it as a puzzle, putting people together with houses. So remember that that's still there. It's just a different approach on how you get there. And all of us have the opportunity in this to move in a new direction that can help us to achieve that goal.
Awesome. Great wrap up. And again, I want to thank all of you guys, Rick, Nancy, Jan, Bill, taking the time. Super. Disclaimer again. Thanks for Rick for the reminder. Guys, this wasn't meant to give you legal advice or how to do it. Make sure you revert to the what is it? Just drew a blank here. I'm thinking of something else.
Best practices.
Best practices. There we go. Make sure you refer to that and talk to your brokers, right? Make sure you're taking their advice and doing things the way that your captain wants to steer his boat. Again, thank you guys. It's great. Hey, make sure if you want to watch this again, it's nsdcartv.com. Send it out to your friends. It's wonderful. And the next one we're going to have is Steve Murray, who does Real Trends, another member benefit. Be a great presentation. It's going to be on a Wednesday, not a Friday. So be looking for that. So again, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You guys
Thanks,
have a great
Captain
day.
Chris.
Be
Thanks,
well.
Chris.
Stay healthy.
Everybody. Great job, Chris.
Bye, Brady Bunch.
Night, John Boy. Night, Mary Ellen.